Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, Fearless Females. I'm so excited you're here to join us again. And big shout out to our sponsor, Fearless Financial Advisors. So today we're talking with Alison Rausch. And I really liked my conversation with Alison. You know how when you, even when you first start a job and you're looking up at maybe those that have been doing it for quite a while and you're like, oh, they've got this figured out. They know all the things. I'm never going to be as good as they are. I'm never going to know as much as they do. And as you kind of get into it, you realize that nobody has it all figured out, that we are all just trying our best and hoping that we learn along the way. Sometimes that learning is really hard, where you trip and fall and get yourself back up and move forward. And sometimes, you get a little bit of help from those who have done it before, who can show you the ropes and things like that. But I think the important part here in my discussion with Alison is that we're all just kind of trying to figure things out as we go. This is a lot of times, it's the first time we've done something. It's the first time our boss has done something. It's the first time our boss's boss has done something. And learning is part of our journey. It's part of our growth. And so if you take things and challenges, especially with that grain of salt, that, hey, I don't know how to do it yet, but I bet you I can figure it out. And I'm going to get all the information I can, do the very best job I can, but I don't exactly know what I'm doing. So I loved Alison's take on that. I hope you guys enjoy our conversation. Let's get started. We are here today with Alison Rausch. She is the Director of Government Affairs for Douglas County School District. Alison, thank you so much for taking your time today to chat with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
So my first question is my favorite always, and that is, I'm a reader. I love books. What's your favorite?
I don't really have favorites, but a recent favorite is The Women from Kristen Hanna.
Oh, uh-huh.
Really good. Historical fiction, Vietnam nurse.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, fascinating. Really, really, really well done.
Is it kind of historically too, is it accurate as well?
Yes, ish, I suppose. But yes, it's definitely historical fiction. And just her experience going into the war and then coming out from a woman's perspective. It was interesting.
Oh, that sounds really fascinating.
Yeah.
My husband loves to give long discussions about things. And he was telling my daughter once about the Vietnam War. So she might be interested in reading maybe an interesting story.
Yeah, it's just really well done. I'm told her other books are as well, so I'm looking forward to reading more of hers.
Perfect. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get started? Where did you start? How did you get where you are today? And kind of what do you do today? Tell me about you.
I saw this question. My journey has been anything but linear, which is probably the most we'll probably talk about that quite a bit. But the short answer is that through my kids going to, when my kids started school, they went to a charter school. I knew nothing about charter schools, but it was opening and the friends were going and I thought we'd try it, fell in love. And I sort of grew up in that school, right? As you do, as your kids are young, and that's when you start meeting their friends, parents. And I got really involved in that charter school, did just about every volunteer job I could, including landing on the board of that charter school, which I'm still on. That's a whole other conversation. My kids are in their 20s. It's fine. And really learned about how charter schools work, how they work within a school district, state law, all the things. And it was fascinating to me. And it was at a time where I decided to step in with some others on educating charter school parents about how the charter school works and why they should be paying attention to their school board here in Douglas County. So it got me into a volunteer mode of educating parents, advocating for charter schools, et cetera. And so I did that for years. It was my civic volunteer gig, even as I was working. But that ended up leading me to running something that we started called the Alliance for Douglas County Charter Schools, which then got the attention of the Colorado League of Charter Schools. And so they wanted to park that under them. And within a few months, it was a half-time job. Within a few months, they hired me for the other time to work with them, trying to do other work through the state at the local level. An association like the League of Charter Schools is very good at the state level, understands what's happening at the Capitol, understands the state law broadly, but what does it look like in each community? And that really has to come from the community because everyone is so different. So that led me there. And then when this position opened up in 22, summer of 22, it caught my eye, and it really felt exactly like something I should and could do. It would bring me back into Douglas County, which is my first love and what I understand. And I understand the people and the community. And so I applied and got it. And so I've been doing this coming up on 3 years.
What does a director of government affairs do?
What is that?
Yeah.
So the job started with the title, well, up until this last fall, Director of Parent, Community, and Civic Engagement. Also confusing, but it really was about, there's a whole subset. It's another acronym in education. They love acronyms. So FSCP is Family School Community Partnerships. And so there's a chunk of my role that involved with that with some other coworkers. I'm the liaison to our state lobbyist. And so right now, and this time period, every single year, that is always a fire hose of information and craziness, and it's fascinating. So that's a lot of my job from January through May. And then also just fostering the relationships we have with our local electeds, our state electeds, our chambers, all of that, because we are an integral part of Douglas County, period. And we've had relationships, but it's hard for everybody else. I have the luxury of not running anything else. I don't have people. I don't run something in particular within the district. I have the time and the luxury and the privilege to be able to foster those relationships. And so it has been really fun and really impactful for everything we need to get out and be able to communicate about Douglas County School District.
So it sounds like you kind of fell into this role.
Yes.
What did you want to originally be? Because you didn't go to school to be director of government affairs, right?
I did not. I got an economics degree.
Oh.
I don't highly recommend that. Unless you think you're going to be a professor of economics. And so I got out of school and had this, it's a Bachelor of Science, but it was a liberal arts degree and with no real direction, and tried interviewing and just, it was frustrating, needed a job. I went to a temp agency and just because I needed something while I was doing that. And I was supposed to answer phones for a week at this builder developer I was in California in the South Bay in the San Jose area. And I ended up staying with that company for 7 years. So that seems to be a little bit of the story of my career. My life is just falling into things. And so I fell in love there. I fell in love with the people and they apparently liked me. And so I learned all things. I was in their loan and escrow department, had no idea, no clue. Learned that from the inside out, ended up being a salesperson for this builder, which was a pretty coveted job. And so I took that. It was a great opportunity and enjoyed that, but no idea. Had no clue where that would lead me.
Yeah. But it sounds like even if you didn't exactly know where you were going to end up and you sort of fell into certain positions, you really kind of magnified them. You grew in that position and made you like just sucked the marrow out of like every last piece of thing that you could do to grow that situation. You seem to magnify it.
I appreciate that. That's an interesting way to look at it. It was a great place to be. So I think, there's always a little luck on where you land. It was some really good people who allowed me to just learn. I love learning how things work. That's why I'm in leadership Douglas County. I'm fascinated by how things work and then making sure you're doing it well. So yeah. And then again, the opportunity to go out into the sales field came out of nowhere, but it was a great experience.
So tell me, if there's a thing that you've invested in, the best investment that you've made in yourself, was there something that you can kind of look back on and say, oh my goodness, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today?
I don't think there's one thing, but I do think saying yes, right? And taking advantage of opportunities when they come. Mm-hmm. My husband and I were looking to leave the Bay Area and get out of California at the time when I had the opportunity to go out into the sales field. And he's always been in sales in another industry. And I thought, we can't not go. He's like, no, you have to do this, which was awesome. And he was right, because it was something I never would have applied for. I never thought I should be in a sales field. I'm still not sure I was certainly not the best technical salesperson we had, but I knew how to work with people, take care of people, take care of the company I work for, and be responsible and just manage those relationships. So that ended up being something I loved as well. But I never would have pursued that in a million years. So I think saying yes.
That's a really good point too. Like just saying yes when those opportunities come into your sphere, and saying, again, it kind of goes back to being just a little bit fearless. You're like, well, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to try.
Totally. And I suppose now I would consider myself in the fearless realm, but once upon a time, for sure not. I was very risk averse, didn't feel like I had confidence, but I wasn't going to step out of my comfort zone. And so it typically required somebody saying, you should do this, or you should try this. And then this is the other piece. And I always, I've got a 24-year-old daughter and a 22-year-old son. But, my first thought when it was offered, I'm like, I can't do that. I don't know this. And then, and I still do that. And then I looked at the people. I knew the people who were in our sales force, and they were amazing. And yet I'm like, if they can do that, I can do that. Not to take away from any. Some of them had, decades of experience. And yet I had talked to them and got to know them. I'm like, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
And so I think I still do that today. Like if they can, I can do that.
Yeah. I love that. I had a guest once that said that everything is figure outable. And I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah. She's like, there's a book, there's someone you can talk to, like take 4 people out to coffee and say, how do I do this?
Totally. I had a class, I'll date myself, but I had a word processing class in college early on. Computers were new. And I remember the teacher saying, look, I'm teaching you these things. I don't expect you to remember all these details, but I want you to know that these are there and that you can always figure it out. Like just understand how this works. And it was like, it wasn't even Word. I don't know what it was, but that's how I approached technology from that day forward. Like I know it's in here, and you can't. Oh, and she also said you can't screw it up. You can't break it. Mm-hmm. Like just try. Just poke around in there and try. And so yeah, I agree. That's been a philosophy of mine as well.
Did you ever get any really bad advice, or what's the worst advice you've ever gotten? And did you take it? Did you leave it? What did you learn?
I can't think of any bad advice. I'm quite sure I have. I suspect I didn't take it. I've had a pretty good trust in my own gut for a long time. Probably it's just something I have always had, whether I understood it or not, and then had quality people around me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think so. I think that's another piece too, is just to really learn early. It's so hard to get the voices out of your head and just really listen to your intuition and your gut.
Mm-hmm.
I tell that to my kids as well, over and over.
Well, and it sounds like you had some good people around you as well. So like, if you maybe filter out the bad advice and kind of surround yourself with people that your gut says are good,
mm-hmm.
And they're giving you good feedback, maybe you just didn't notice it because it didn't,
Yeah, I just can't think of anything or anyone. I do think my discernment's been pretty good, even when I was young. Again, not maybe even fully understanding what that was, and taking what sounded right and ditching the rest.
That's good. That's a really good way to filter out maybe things that could get you derailed. You don't listen to all the voices. You just listen to the voices that are telling you things that are resonating with you or that are feeling right.
Yeah, I try. Honestly, most of my life, for whatever reason, it was people coming to me, asking me. I seem to be one of those people where I hear stories and have questions asked. I don't know. But I think at the end of the day, it's just trying. I often will advise, it is filtering out the noise, looking at the kernel or the crux of the issue, and you make the right decision. What's the right decision? Mm-hmm. There's going to be a right or a couple of right decisions. Sometimes, you got to flip a coin. That's okay. But if it's the right decision, don't listen to the noise. And then you go to the next thing and you make that decision. Like, don't overwhelm yourself with the what ifs, like isolate it. It's hard.
That's good. Do the next right thing. I like that idea.
Right thing. Yeah.
So what about things you would do differently? If you could go back and look at a situation, knowing what you know now, is there a situation that you would handle differently?
I'm sure I would. But overall, I don't really do regrets. I really believe firmly that even our mistakes, especially our mistakes, are where we learn, and things end up working out for the best. Like things work out the way they're supposed to work out. Mm-hmm. It's not an overt spiritual thing for me. It just seems to be the way. I mean, it just, and sometimes it takes getting to this point in life, right? You couldn't have told my 25, 30-year-old self that. I don't even know if you could have told my 40-year-old self that. But in hindsight, you see it, right? You see that even the toughest situations are where you grow the most. And I'm not sure I'd take them back. In the moment, I would have wanted them not to be there for sure, but you see it with hindsight.
Yeah, I have some of those, like I call them learning experiences. And there are things that I definitely, I learned a lot from the situation, and I do things differently going forward. So I do see that, like, maybe you don't regret it, but is there a situation that you learned a lot from?
Yeah, we had our own business. We had it for almost 9 years, and it was great. It was great. The ultimate learning experience. I did it with my husband. It was really his passion. We had people. And we would have liked it to go longer, and it didn't. And that was hard. Mm-hmm. But we did a lot of really good things and learned a lot of really hard lessons. And at the end of the day, learned that even the worst thing, outside of course losing people, but losing that doesn't break you. It doesn't end you. It doesn't define you. It's hard to go through. But again, I mean, I think from that period on, like, fearless certainly feels more appropriate to describe my life and my approach to things, because that didn't end us. So I'm not sure how much worse it gets on again, outside of losing people.
Yeah.
It's more lessons than I would have liked, but and there are days to this day I'm like, okay, whose somebody in my world is supposed to learn a lesson. Can we just move on with this? Like, if it's me, okay, I'll try, but come on. I'm tired of learning. No more learning today.
I do that. Yeah, I do that. I do recall experiences where I'm like, what do I need to learn from this situation? Because I want to learn it right now and be on the other side.
Like, can we just move through this? And if it's not me, it's somebody near me, and hurry up, figure it out. Because, again, there's just not a day. There's not a day that goes by where you're like, oh, all right, got it. Yeah. I won't do that way again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does, that experience. I was just talking to someone else about that today. The experiences where you fall flat on your face, or the business doesn't, thrive or continue, or something like that. Like it's, those are such hard experiences to be in the middle of, but they also teach you so much. And whether it's for your own benefit later on or for somebody else's, so they don't have to go through it to learn the same lessons you learned.
That too. But again, they have to be ready to hear it. Again, and when you go back and, gosh, I wish somebody would have told me. If they told me, I would have said, I got this.
Yeah. Yeah.
First time kindergarten parents. I always want to, like, it's going to be okay. I promise everything's okay. But nobody could have told me that. Nobody, it's all emotion, right? And everything seems just so huge. And it's that perspective on priority setting and understanding the small stuff that you shouldn't sweat, but it's all like, you don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah, you don't. You don't. And I do hope that those that are listening to the podcast will glean some glimmer of experience or, whatever from what we're kind of explaining. But yeah, sometimes you do have to kind of go through it.
Yeah.
Hopefully maybe they'll do it better.
I hope so. It's hard to watch people do the same thing. You're like, I told you not to do that. But it's how we learn as humans. We're so flawed, and that's how we have to learn.
What about if you could go back and talk to yourself just at the beginning of your journey, 20, 21, 18, 19, somewhere in that area, what would you tell you?
I think just enjoy the ride. It is not going to be anything like you expect. Mm-hmm. And I think I was able to, but there were moments like, this is not what I'm supposed to do. Like, if you live in that world, if you think you've got a plan for your whole life, I hate to tell you, some might work out that way, but I don't think most do. And that's actually something, again, I've got early 20s kids, and I'm watching them, but even some of their friends who are just like, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and I'm going to have 2 kids by, the whole thing. I'm like, okay, great. I hope you're prepared for all of the shifts and jives and pivots that life is going to hand you. Because I worry about those who are so structured and think they know what their life is going to look like, because that's going to be a tough lesson to learn. That's going to be a hard one. So I think I did handle the shifts and jives and pivots pretty well, but I would just say it's all right. Trust your gut and keep going.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really interesting point too, is just that, like, you can have it planned, and it's good to have goals, right? And it's good to have a plan and all of that sort of stuff, but you have to leave a little leeway for the universe. And for, if you have it so structured, you might miss some of those opportunities.
Those opportunities that you should say yes to, those doors that open along that hallway that you think you're heading straight. The doors are interesting.
Yeah.
And nothing's forever. Try it. Timelines, where you should be graduated by a certain time. You should have this career by a certain... Doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I do think that our young folks nowadays they're given this, like, there's only one right way to success. There's only one path to do. You do this, and then you do this, and you do this. And they're told pretty much from the time, if my kids are an example, from the time they're like middle school age, you have to have your extracurriculars. You need to be in sports. You've got to,
Yeah.
and then you get into an Ivy League, and then you have a great career. And there are so many different paths that you can take and so many different ways to get to where you want to go.
So many. You can't, you should never let any of that make you believe that you can't. Again, my kids, and one in particular, was applying to lots of colleges. And I mean, she would have liked to be on the beach in California. I said, well, and she ended up at KU and loved it. And I just firmly believe, like, you just, wherever you are, take advantage. There will be ample opportunity wherever you are. And she did. She connected with the right groups and competitions and, professors and advisors. And it's about networking, and it's about meeting people. And again, saying yes to the opportunities if you put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. What scared you the most when you started your journey? And does it still scare you, or not as much?
Probably. So again, when you say fearless, like, I feel like I'm almost fear-based, but certainly not like I was when I was younger. And it was, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, that's the other thing. Turns out nobody totally knows what they're doing. And the adults are winging it. Like, if I told my 20, but I don't know. Should we really tell 20-year-olds that the generation ahead are winging it? Like, that might be a little scary. So that's also something you learn. Like, oh, I'm not the only one winging this. I'm not the only one trying to figure things out as I go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what started. I thought you'd get, you get a degree and you get into your whatever career, and like, you'd know exactly what you were doing. You'd have it all together. I have never had it all together. I try not to let everyone see what I don't have together. I try to portray myself as together as possible, but that's not a thing.
Yeah.
That is not a thing. We are always figuring things out, and every career and every industry is ever changing. Mm-hmm. And you've got to be adaptable.
Mm-hmm. Well, and especially like with the speed of technology or the speed of change, like you may make a case for a couple generations ahead of us where they learned their job and it never changed.
It didn't change. You're right.
But today it changes weekly, daily, it just
so much.
It's so busy, and you have to learn new things and adapt. And I love that you can usually find a tribe wherever you're at that is trying to help you, that will help lift you up and help you adapt and help you in the areas you're weak and they're strong. That sense of if you find the right people, the right place, you find that tribe. You do.
You do. I agree. They're almost always there. If you're not finding it and you're in a spot where that's not something where they are, that should be a clue, a red flag that perhaps you're not in the right spot, because coworkers should be the best part of your job, and having tribe and community, and even if it's outside of your job, but if you're not finding that somewhere, it's probably a clue that you should be looking somewhere else.
Yeah, because I've worked in really great places where they are so supportive and helpful and trying, they've got your back, they're trying to help you out. And so I agree, Alison, if you don't have that kind of supportive environment, like, maybe go looking for it.
Go somewhere. There's lots of other things to do.
Mm-hmm.
It can be scary to leave the known, right?
Oh yeah. But
I promise there's so many, the number of opportunities out there are crazy insane. And it might be something outside of what you thought you were supposed to do. And that's okay.
Maybe you turn into a salesman without
any training.
Yeah.
No training. You literally threw me out with no training. I'm like, what? I'm doing what? But I had people to call. I'm like, what on earth do I do with this? And it was my boss, my then new boss's job, philosophy, like, jump in, good luck.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too that as you get on the other side of that, you show a good example of like lifting and helping those that are coming behind, right? You
Yeah,
had some help maybe figuring it out, and
totally.
you're willing to pay that forwards to somebody else who's coming up. And I've noticed that too, that we're pretty we're pretty willing and open to like answer questions, have a coffee with someone, tell them about our
Oh yeah.
experience, see if we can help out a little bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's not something I do super purposefully. Probably should lean into that a little more, but I love doing it when I
Mhm.
can.
Mhm. Sometimes we just need to be asked. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, oh, you want to hear what I have to say? All right, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do
Exactly.
have opinions. I usually have an opinion.
Yeah. Me too. My
Yeah.
husband tells me that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, did you face any unique challenges along your journey because you were a woman?
Hmm. You know, I think some of the classic ones, balancing family. I never found being a woman to be a hindrance for career, work, relationships, ever, ever, ever. So I don't know if that was a mindset combined with being in really good places, but that was just never going to be a thing for me. But certainly balance. I assumed I would go back to work after having kids, and I had a little mini mental breakdown when it was time to make that decision. And I'm like, I cannot. And that was fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I did stay home until my youngest. It wasn't that long, but I went back to work part-time when my youngest was wrapping up kindergarten
Mm-hmm.
so that I could be around. And the job I got was part-time and flexible. And again, it was an opportunity to do something. I helped a friend who was starting her own dental office. Like she'd been with a group and she was going to go off on her own, and she needed a front office sort of person. I'm like, I don't know anything about it, but I can learn it. And she's like, yeah, you can. And so that's a whole other like rabbit trail I went down.
Yeah.
It didn't lead me to do anything else in that industry, but of course I learned things because it was completely new,
Mm-hmm.
and met some lifelong friends and, love it. And it worked for me in the moment. So yeah, again, saying yes.
So, talk to me a little bit about just the decision to not go back to work, because so you were working, you quit to have, on like what, a regular 3 week, 6 week maternity leave or something like that.
Yeah, I was in my maternity leave. I couldn't even tell you the week, but it was getting closer and closer. And my boss was asking, and this was when I was out in the sales field, and it was just this overwhelming emotional, like, I cannot. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is just me and my experience. I fully support, understand that not everybody has this. I didn't expect it from myself. And my husband and I were sort of adjusting our lives where he might be home a little bit more. My boss was like, well, can I do a part-time job, like a half-time, which was not a thing. I mean, I was so appreciative. It was not a thing for this company. And I thought about it for a second, and then I was just like, no, I can't, no, I can't. I don't even know what to say. And I was in tears on a phone call with him, which is not something I do.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. It was, I'm sure it was all hormonal, but
Oh, I've been there.
it was just something, it was so clear to me. Like, no, and I didn't understand how short of a time, as you now know, it really truly is. It feels so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful I did it. Did it put us back financially? Yeah. Yeah, did.
Mm-hmm.
But it was something that was really that important to me. And my husband's job was he was in retail sales, car business. And so he had really weird hours and all over the place. And there was going to be no way of truly 50-50 partnering. That was our life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. And like, what does that even look like? Somebody's got to have the flexibility. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I too stayed home,
Yeah.
at the beginning with I had 5 kids,
Yeah.
but I started when I had the first one and I was at home with them. And I always joke that I like didn't have the money for daycare, and that's true. I didn't have the money for daycare. I don't know how anyone does. But
And there's that. I don't
yeah,
understand that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I also deliberately took time out of the beginning of my career
Yeah.
to raise kids, and I
Yeah.
don't regret it, but it does put you behind. You're making choices, you know?
That's it. You
Yeah.
just have to make those choices. And I don't know that I don't know. It just was fascinating to me that was my coworker. I didn't really have a lot of close peers that had kids
Mhm.
and had made those decisions. And I think there were just some assumptions in my head and I hadn't really thought it through. I clearly hadn't thought it through because I had a really strong emotional reaction to it when push came to shove. And so again, everybody's just got to do what's best for them.
Allison, what is the thing you are most proud of?
I think my family. I think the fact that we did make those decisions and sacrificed in order to be there for our kids the way we thought was best. Just partnering with my husband and my kids. I'm pretty proud of my kids. Certainly proud of stuff I've done individually, and it's always been woven in and out.
Mm-hmm.
I think them watching me, their dad, do our careers the way we did it, which was not always easy, and modeling as best we could. Certainly not modeling perfection, but modeling doing the best you can, which has been fun. It's been fun as my kids again are in their early 20s. They have some moments, when they look back and of course they loved going to that house or that friend's house because parents were letting them do whatever, and now it's like, oh, you wouldn't have let us do that. I'm like, no, I did not. You're welcome. Or you wouldn't have done that. You didn't do that. I said, no, we didn't do that. You're welcome. Cause friction in the moment, of course, especially with my firstborn. We would lock horns a lot, but yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. Again, certainly not perfection. And I think that's healthy because there's no such thing.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't give them an unrealistic expectation. It's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be messy.
Yeah.
You're going to be winging it. You're going to be barely making it look like you know what you're doing. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Yeah, I do appreciate that example and that idea of an example for our kids to help them know that you found balance in your career, that you were able to, because you stayed home for a few years, but in the scheme of things, it was like what, 4, 5, 6 years, like
exactly, yeah. 6-ish, maybe. Yeah. 6, 7, yeah.
And so you were making it working and making your family work. That's hard.
It is hard. It is. And it will be hard forever. That will just never not be a thing. And so don't be bitter about it. Don't be, just sort it out. Just figure it out. It is, we are so lucky that we get to be women and moms and have it be complicated and figure it out.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I really do love that thought that we are so lucky to be able to have these, these things that we have to juggle and adjust, because as caretakers or as primary caretakers, a lot of times, we're adjusting to kids or parents or siblings or pets, or, we are always adjusting. And sometimes we forget how lucky we are to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
How grateful, that's a really great way of looking at things.
Yeah.
So, any advice for a young lady who's just starting down on this path that you're already successful at? It's going to be a winding path, apparently, through.
Again, I feel like this is just going to be a summary of everything I've just said, but yeah, just trust your gut, surround yourself with good people, don't sweat the small stuff. The hardest part is knowing what the small stuff is and what the big stuff is. And just, again, just make that next right decision, whether that's about your career or what feels like a crisis in the middle of a career, just a day-to-day decision. Filter out the noise, make that right decision, and keep moving. Just keep moving forward.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's really valuable. If you just keep moving forward, and sometimes you fall, and then you got to
will fall
back up.
If you don't, honestly, this is something just as a side note, and we're working on in the district, we're doing our strategic plan, and I've been fortunate enough to listen to some of our consultants and talking, and you think about the valedictorian kid who has figured out exactly how to do everything perfectly in high school. Great. If you don't learn how to fail, like, what does that look like? Like, what kind of a crash or hard lesson is that? Mm-hmm. And where are they when that's happening? I would love for some of those to happen in high school when they're under your roof and closest to you than halfway across the country somewhere, going off and thinking life is easy for me. I don't think that serves them well. I think there was a conference I was at, and the speaker was like, I wish in order to be a valedictorian, they have to have failed at something. Now, I know there's no way to do that, and they would probably engineer a failure because they're so smart and they know what to do. But like, I get that. I wouldn't have gotten that if I was young, but I do now. Mm-hmm. And you just have to walk through it. You have to learn how to fall, get up, walk through it, and be fine. It's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that there are people along your path, if you look when you're down, that will help you, support you, even if all they do is give you a hug when you're crying. I think
totally.
They do come out.
Yeah, you'll find your real, your true blues in those moments as well.
Mm-hmm. But I like that idea too of like, you have to fail. You do. It's mandatory. You can't really be the person who you're meant to become unless you do.
Mm-mm. Exactly. I mean, I suppose you can get through, but yeah, you won't be the best you possible. And frankly, I don't know anybody who hasn't had failure somewhere, some way, somehow. It's unavoidable. It's life. It's how we learn. Mm-hmm. But it's designed to help you. Doesn't feel like it in the moment, but it will. It will, I promise.
Well, I love it. Alison, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. And for our listeners, if I have a listener that wants to reach out and just pick your brain or ask a question, how does she get in touch with you?
You are welcome to reach out me. You want me to give an email, or what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn, email, like what's the best way to contact you?
I'm not good at LinkedIn. I know I should be. I need to have my kids help me set it up. I am on Facebook. Can also look me up at the school district, and then Lorie's always able to reach me as well. Okay. But I'm happy to talk to anybody about anything. I love learning from others.
Yeah, me too. It's one of my favorites. So thank you so much for spending some time and sharing your experience. I've really appreciated it.
Thank you so much.